It flow.
Let it flow from the heart. Otherwise, we'll all prepare.
That is good. That's good.
I'm gonna let you go and walk away like every day I said I would.
Good day, everyone. You're welcome to Talking Real with Oba on Fancy Radio. I'm so excited today because we have a special person in the studio. This is because we're going to be discussing something that is so dear to my heart, and I believe is so dear to every one of you listening to us today. I believe today weather is good, and so if you're still feeling cold, why don't you just get a cup of tea or probably coffee? Because we're going to be having very good and should I say productive discussion today, not just for the diaspora community, but for everyone that wished the United Kingdom greatness. This is called the United Kingdom for a reason, the Great Britain. So I would believe in what, though I just don't want to get it off front so quick, but I'm excited about that, about what we'll be discussing today, just getting some information from the person, the special guest in the studio today. So just going to go straight to our discussion right away. I would like the person to introduce himself, and he needs to the entire United Kingdom now wants to know you, and because now we know you, we've listened to you, we've watched some clips from your production and things you've done, and I'm just going to give you this special guest is known as Rajiv, but it's more than just that first name. I would like him to speak to us now by introducing himself to our listener. Rajiv, please, would like to know you better.
Well, Oba, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to Fancy Radio for calling me into the station. My name is Rajiv Chowdhury, and ironic, but I started my life many, many years ago in the 90s in London.
Wow.
I was the resident manager at the St. James Court Hotel. I was one of the youngest. The guests would be from all parts of the world. I think I was the host for one of the functions organized by Princess Diana then,
Okay.
and Prince Charles. And I do have very, very fond memories of being very nervous as I was a new kid on the block.
Very interesting.
And from there, I moved to Australia in 1995.
Okay.
And I decided to become an entrepreneur. I don't come from a business background.
Yeah.
My dad served in the armed forces. He fought several wars, won several awards, was sent to the Royal Nigerian Navy in Lagos.
Wow.
And so I did a lot of my schooling in the British school, in fact, Corona Nursery and the British school at a very young age. So I was introduced to different people from different parts of the world. I won't want to use colors like white and black, but multicultural people, I think I'd use that word. So at a very young age, I had friends who were African, I had friends who were French, German, English, and of course Indian. That's my background. I took it to my education. I studied, I obviously did my management, hotel management. I've traveled a fair bit around the world. But let's talk about this film. Rhodes Old and New, that's where we met the lovely team of yours from Fancy Radio, and I was very fortunate to have won an award for Rhodes Old and New. This is nothing but storytelling. And my main imperative as you get older, I'm 55 years of age. I've got a daughter who's a doctor. She's an anesthetist at the Royal North Shore Hospital. And I look at people, I look at new migrants who come into the country. I look at people from...
I'm going to come just where your thoughts.
Sure.
You're already making us envious. We're almost the same age and you already have a doctor. That's a doctor. That is good. And that's something to celebrate. But I want to say something before we go further.
Sure.
And I think you are one person that deserves to do what you're doing. You have a better understanding of the Western culture, the Asian culture, and the African culture.
True.
So I think you are qualified to say what you're saying. That is what I picked from your introduction.
Absolutely.
And that is why I said we need to get this right so that everyone knows we're speaking to an expert here and someone with both the experience, the education, and the exposure. And so it's not just the experience, you have both the experience, the education, and the exposure. So I want to say thank you for doing this. Thank you for bringing your life out there. So I'm going to allow you to continue with your thought, frame. There's something I want to understand. It's very difficult. Balancing, talking about sociocultural integration in community, in line with the movie you just talked about. I want you to really bring the balance there. Social integration and then keeping your cultural heritage in a new environment. Come on, have you done this and how did you achieve that?
See, you've got to be resilient, number one. People will try to change you as you enter a new country. People will try to get you into a mold. No, you've got to accept this, you've got to accept that. It's all great to accept rules and regulations of a country, but I think to keep your roots where you come from, to remember your fathers and your forefathers and your great-grandfathers and the heritage of your family, your culture, is extremely important. It needs to be preserved because your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and those generations that follow must know your story, not just the story of your country. So if you're in England, it's not just about the monarchy, it's not just about people who were born and brought up in England. It's about those people who came, their struggles, their challenges, what they had to go through, their hardships, and yet they succeeded. Some failed, but most people succeed. People don't grow up to, whether it's you, me, or anyone from any part of the world, they don't grow up to fail. They fail because they don't have the mental strength, the ability, they don't get the support system that some of us have. So it's important to be resilient. And the whole purpose of filmmaking for me is about portraying such stories. Where you tell people that there were challenges, some very, very fundamental challenges, financial considerations. Some people come to, say, the United Kingdom for various reasons, for better prospects, maybe better job prospects, maybe some of them are having it hard financially, some come for political reasons, some come because they just flee from domestic violence, or whatever be the reason, the fact is, they need to not forget their identity, their culture. So if you celebrate a festival, you must celebrate that festival.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Watching your movie, I discover that we all need to respect our identity while trying to maximize opportunity in the country where we reside. And then you see some challenges faced by these people and how they overcome it. But sometimes people go to the other extreme where people do not want to integrate, and so they are not able to. There was recently a barrister was on this show and talked about how a man from Asia lost his property because he refused to integrate. He just couldn't integrate, and his wife left him, and because of that, he suffered loss. So how do you balance this? I still want you to help those people that, because there are two spectrum of people here. There are some that want to also strong to their identity, which is good, and they find it difficult to integrate, and that makes it impossible for them to see opportunity in the country of the residents and exploit this opportunity to create wealth. While there are some that that like some of them had to short their name. I remember one of the character Dave, and some of them did so Dave is a very interesting character, and also the man that knows how to dance very well. I've forgotten his name. Now there were some get to that point where they try to be accepted by the new society and end up losing their identity.
True.
So how do you take care of these challenges, and how do you bring people to the middle ground?
There's a word I use, and I call that word, it's a very well-known word in academic learning. It's called cultural sensitization.
Okay.
I think it's very important for us, as whether you're born and brought up in this country, or whether you're not born and brought up in this country, you migrated to this country. It's important for you to understand your culture and to respect others' cultures too. So let us say if I'm Hindu and you're Christian and we've got a Muslim, we all need to appreciate that we do have our own worship theories and beliefs. we should respect them. We should not denigrate each other. We should not, just because you're born a particular way, the way you're born or I'm born, that shouldn't differentiate me from getting a job and from growing. And what is happening and what people don't realize, and those countries that have not succeeded, if you see I'm not going to get political here, but the countries that have not succeeded are countries that have not accepted people from outside their country and given them the identity that they deserve. Let them blend in. Cultural diversity, harmony, all of these words will happen. Why is it, I must ask you this question, why is it, and I'm proud of being Australian, but of Indian heritage.
Wow.
Remember, I'm proud of being Australian, but of Indian heritage. I had permission to stay indefinitely in England, and while I was in England, I was proud of being, British or English or whatever you want to say. I never would. I remember my daughter, when she was 9, she came back from school one day and said, "Dad, we've all got to speak tomorrow, and we've got to speak on who am I and am I Indian or am I Australian?"
That's a tough topic. What counsel did you give to her?
So I said to her, "Darling, just what do you think you are?" And she told, because I wanted her to, kind of understand. She says, "Dad, I think I am Australian, but I'm also Indian." So I said, the answer to give, darling, Kanika is the name. I said, "Kanika, just go back to your teacher and tell them, when you speak, say I'm a proud Australian of Indian heritage." Just like a computer here has an Intel processor inside, it doesn't matter, it's still a computer. So we are all human beings. It doesn't matter where we come from, what color we are, what caste we are, what religion we practice. And I think this religion bashing and caste bashing or color bashing, it needs to stop. And I want to use a cinematic platform to convey this story. The story of England is not about the monarchy. The story of England is not just about the white people. It's about people who come from everywhere. Could be the people from Morocco, from Spain, from different parts of the world, from Africa. And they constitute, at the end of the day, this beautiful United Kingdom, or multicultural Australia in my case.
Yeah, really, thank you for saying this. I believe there's so many parents, even here in the UK, that sometimes find to balance these cross-cultural dynamics, and which you have done so excellently in this video. This video needs to be watched by everyone. As I was watching the video, I was just smiling. I'm like, it's just, it's less than how many minutes, but it is so profound, and it's something the world needs to see. And I think at the end, I'm going to be begging you, you don't need to do that for just Australia and India alone. You need to do that for all that community, like Indians in the United Kingdom, Indians in the United States. These are movies. So I want to ask you this question: the cross-cultural dynamics in that particular movie is so interesting. What step do you want to advise that people should take, not just in Australia, but also here in the United Kingdom?
Having lived in this country, I cannot not speak on behalf of what people in this country should do, even though I may not have the right to say it as an Australian. But as a filmmaker, what I'd like to ask or request of all of you is celebrate being human, celebrate being yourself, celebrate your little success stories. Don't worry about the successes your neighbors and friends have and the failures that they've had. Celebrate your successes, learn from your failures. If you fail, it doesn't mean you can't stand up. You can stand up. And if you look at those stories of the dozen odd seniors in my film, Roads Old and New, you just see that. You see people someone's gone through a divorce. Someone has had to leave their child behind. Some people were made to feel like they came from England and moved to Australia, and they were asked as though they were coming from Mars. So these are the kind of people will question you. People will make you feel awkward. It happens even today. Let's be honest. Let's not try to fool anyone. It happens. I was in the train today, and you observe it. You notice it, but you try to be the bigger and better person. So instead of there is a sense of tolerance, but as long as it doesn't cross that line.
Okay.
So take no nonsense. I agree with you, or I strongly believe that. And if you see these beautiful stories, these are nothing but they reflect human stories, the challenges, the pains, the struggles, and all of them are successful now in their own little way.
Yeah. Now, there's something about the movies is it takes the format of storytelling. Are there things in your life or background that influence that direction?
Oh, well, I can be, yes, I can be honest about it. When I
Yeah.
migrated from England to Australia, it cost me my marriage. And I never talk about it. Probably this is the first time I'm talking about it. And there was nothing wrong, but it was just that cultural sensitization.
Okay.
I had an arranged marriage. My dad was a
Okay.
defense officer. He called me from India and said, "Son,
You're giving an order.
are you dating anyone? Do you have a girlfriend?" I actually had a German girlfriend, but I was like, I was, my pants were going to be wet. I said, "No, Dad." And this is the respect you have for your elders and
Yeah,
your parents.
yeah.
I said, "No, Dad, I do have a friend, but we're not that kind of friends." So he said to me, this is him talking to a young 3-year-old or 24-year-old. And it led on from that, where he said, "I've seen this lovely girl. She's a defense officer's daughter, and you must, why don't you meet her?" And in those days, there was no internet, there was no Facebook,
Yeah.
there was no photos. So lo and behold, I was busy with Wimbledon, and I said, "Dad, I can't come there." So he says, "Don't worry, we'll come there." And they brought a photo, and my grandmother came too. And my grandmother would snoop through. I was staying in an apartment in the hotel at St. James Court Hotel, and she would snoop through my cupboard and see are there any photos or any lingerie or anything to do with girls, so that is this guy like telling us the truth? And so I had an arranged marriage. But as much as I wanted to change, the change has to come from both sides.
Yeah.
And there's no domestic violence. There's no. Sometimes two people are just not two people, and that's what it is. But it's so it did cost me that, and I was very keen, and I work. I do a lot of charity work. I've got a school in India with 10,000 odd girls. We started it in the year 2000 in a small remote village. I don't operate it. I helped set it up. We've got a CEO and a board that manages it. I am the president of the Community Foundation of Northwestern Sydney.
What's the focus of the school? What is it? Just purely charity?
Because I had a girl child, and at 10 I had to bring up my child, and I had to manage, look after my child.
Okay.
So for me, I had two options. One is to go back into the dating scene and
Okay.
find a lovely
together,
lady,
okay.
and the other was to focus on my family. So that's another message that I want to give to you. If you look at these success stories or these little migrant stories, everyone focuses on their family. For me, my priority was not my personal relationship. It was, I didn't get broken with the fact that my marriage had broken down because I moved into Australia, into a new country. For me, it was about providing for my daughter and giving her success, helping her succeed. So I was seeing success through her eyes. I made certain changes to my lifestyle. I started doing more charity work. I started focusing on, helping people with special needs.
Wow.
And fortunately, last year, in fact, I should share with you, I was the Australian Citizen of the Year.
Congratulations, congratulations.
And it was a great feeling. It's you don't do these things for awards and rewards. You do them for yourself. So my advice to your listeners would be, don't worry about what people say. You may go through a bad patch. You may fail. You may lose your job. You may have a fight with your partner and it may not work out. Hang in there. Think about the future. Don't think about the anger that is within.
I want to be selfish here. And you're doing a lot in Australia, and I'll tell you, the Asian community here, they are awesome. And they are contributing to the greatness of the United Kingdom. That is the truth. What plan do you have for the Asian community here?
You see, I've just met with a few Asian people here last night, and I am here till the 30th of this month. I decided to extend my stay. I was meant to be today at the Milan Film Festival, but there's a strike in Milan, so it's been
Okay.
postponed, and
Okay.
we've made some inroads there too. My advice would be definitely you have to be. How do I answer that question? I would say, why don't you ask me that question again?
I say, from listening to you, watching your movie, listening to you, envious of what you're doing in Australia,
Mhm.
within the Asian community. So I'm speaking up on behalf of my Asian friends in the United Kingdom. What will you be doing for the Asian community here?
I have been connecting with them. They want me to meet certain counselors. They want me to try and help them, collaborate with them,
Okay.
and try to do the things that I'm doing in Australia back here. It's easier said than done. It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
There are meetings as we're talking. I've had certain messages on WhatsApp on my phone pop up, which kind of distracted me in the last question that you asked me.
Okay.
But the aim is to connect with people to see. It's not. I don't want to be remembered as someone who achieved something. I want to be remembered as someone who served humankind.
Yeah.
And if there are Asians here who want to replicate and learn the way we have succeeded, if I have achieved some success, I'm happy to share my entrepreneurial story. I'm happy to share my personal story.
That's lovely.
There is no shame in it.
That's lovely. And because I just spent a few minutes listening to watching your movie, and I was impacted, as the truth. And you have experience in Bollywood. Are you an actor? Have you acted before?
I'm not going to answer that question, but the Bollywood angle is very, very important. And
Okay.
I remember we'd had a little bit of a chat.
Yeah.
One of your team members had
Yeah.
sent me some questions. My director, Iqbal Rizvi, is again,
Yeah.
Iqbal Rizvi
Yeah.
is now, listen to this, director Iqbal Rizvi is from Bollywood, studied at the New York Film Academy.
Yeah.
It's been creating content in
Yeah.
Bollywood for the last 30 years. My screenplay writer is Professor Brian Stoddart. He's Christian. He's from New Zealand. He migrated to Australia many years ago. He's a former vice chancellor of a university and an expert on India-Australia relationships.
Lovely.
So, the idea was when you were working on a sensitive topic like this, you wanted that. And here I am.
Okay.
I don't like, even though I'm proud of being Hindu, I go to churches, I go to mosques, I go to synagogues, I go
Wow.
to the Baha'i community functions, and I'm proud of celebrating their religions as much as I'm proud of being Hindu
Okay.
myself. So, this is a beautiful mix, and what Bollywood has done, or the way Iqbal has portrayed stuff, is he's given it some melodrama. He's given it a little bit of, the otherwise stock standard Australian films, or what I call stock standard films from Hollywood. They are very, very stock standard. We had to create different ambiences. We had to create different sets. We had to give it something different.
Okay.
Just like sitting by the bonfire, dancing. This is celebrating, even in the African religion, you've got to dance. I still remember my dad in Lagos. He would say, "Come on, we've got to go, and let's go and dance." And
That's serious.
it was funny. It was, as a kid, you found it amusing initially,
Wow.
but you would have the African ladies with their headgear and all those beautiful outfits, and I remember we would be dancing. So it was just free spirited, and sometimes that's just the way to be. Just celebrate life.
You are definitely a good ambassador for the India community globally. I think so. And with what your story, your Hollywood story, your entrepreneurship story, and then you're into IT too. You've been everywhere doing almost everything.
It's
Please, how do you do this? And should I say, how is this influencing your story, the Johnny Old and you? Is there any influence there from
Yes.
different?
Yes, when you put your film production, in my opinion, and I actually this was something I got into about 5 years ago. Iqbal and I had a chat. We were celebrating my 50th birthday. He had come down to Sydney, and he said to me, Rajiv, let's make a film together. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. But then, when I was working in my charities and I wanted to find a way as to how I can get this story about Joshua, about Emma, about William. They're all Caucasian. I've helped about 140 people with special needs. I've adopted Joshua right now. He's just got his first car. He's got $12,000 in his bank as savings. So we've got a financial planner supporting him. I've set up a cafe for him. So you know what I do? You set up this cafe, you use your entrepreneurial skill not to make profit, but profit for purpose. That profit goes to that guy because he's working. He needs self-esteem. And if I can help that one person save his life and get him off drugs, and his parents had disowned him and stuff like that, and to show him a pathway to self-esteem, self-respect. You know, I've done my job in this life.
Actually.
So I think that's what we all need to do as small businesses. You need to sit down and help people. But coming back to your story on the filmmaking, producing a film is nothing but project managing. So you are a project manager, and IT, as an entrepreneur, you learn how to manage budgets, because if you don't have money, you don't have food on the table, my friend.
That's true.
So you've got to think of all these things. So I used a very, very rational approach. I set up a project report. For my own self, I knew what X would cost me. I got certain quotations. I made sure I kept everyone on set happy. Even those extras, holding the gaffer, they are important people. Even though, just like in your radio station, there are people who make this possible. You and I sit pretty and make the station look good. But there are a lot of people behind the scenes. There's a lot of people, for your listeners to know, who put in hard work, creating content, getting people to your show, make sure every equipment works. So that was my IT skill. I had to make sure that the cameras were perfect. I had to shoot in 6K or 4K. I wanted to use the best technology. I wanted to use good filmmaking techniques. My music score was done by an Italian-Australian, Alfredo Zotti, who is a crazy guy.
Interesting.
and he lives on the Central Coast, about an hour away from Sydney. But he's just amazing. So this is a truly multicultural.
Rajiv, don't tell me this is your first movie.
Can I be honest with you? Yes, this is my first film.
And it's good.
Sorry?
And it's so good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a matter of it's about, my dad would always say, he's up in heaven, but he would always say, be humble, have your feet on the ground, and reach out for the stars. So I think it was that philosophy that I used.
Okay.
The opening, I don't know if you saw the opening thing on the film, was a tribute to my dad.
Yeah.
Why not? Why shouldn't I? I don't.
That's good.
A lot of people would shy away from the fact that, it's going to show that I'm Indian, or I'm this, or I'm that. I don't care. I am me.
It's who you are.
Yeah. And I think man has to be the architect of his own destiny.
Yeah.
So we should not let others shape the way for us. It's good to get mentoring advice. It's good to get help. So for this film, this was great. And in fact, I'm doing a second film on a guy of Malaysian and Tamil background. He's 90 years old. He's one of the top singers in Australia. His name is Kamal.
I saw a bit of that.
It's called Against All Odds.
Okay.
And this guy has won the OBE. He's the equivalent of the OBE is the OA, Order of Australia.
Okay.
So he's got the Order of Australia. And at 90, you know what he said to me when I interviewed him? He started crying.
Wow.
And he said to me, the first time when I came in 1953 on a ship from Singapore to Perth, he said, I reached an Adelaide and I had to sing a song in a restaurant. And I requested them, can you turn the lights off? And they said, why? He says, because I'm black.
Wow.
And he actually had the lights switched off. And he sang. This was during the white regime. In Australia, things changed in the 1970s. Before that, they were very, very, there was a lot of color discrimination. People from other colors were only allowed to live in the country for 2 years. You were only allowed to stay for 2 years. You had to go back. So that was it. So he said, he sang this beautiful song, Old Man River, and or one of the oldest songs, and he said, everyone clapped and was ecstatic. And then the lights came on, they said, who sang this song? And, the manager of the restaurant turned around and said, and they looked at him and said, oh, you. Wow. This guy was ordered to be deported 3 times out of the country.
Wow.
3 times because he had overstayed, that is 6 years.
Yeah.
But the immigration officer said to him, you've got an amazing voice, you will stay. So, this is resilience.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in being honest. He's won the Order of Australia, but he had.
He had to even change his name in a way. He was talking about his name, the pronunciation and things like that. I'm like, wow, just to be accepted. And
Yeah.
this is, and
So he even speaks about, his name was Kamaleshwar,
Yeah.
Kamal. So he says he shortened it to
Kamal.
Kamal, and people started calling him Camel. So he says, I was developing a hump.
Wow.
So
wow.
I added a H to it to get out of that, and now they call me Kamal. So he's a beautiful guy, but
This is
yeah,
interesting.
Interesting stories.
And-
We could
and-
go on talking
Yeah,
forever.
no, I'm enjoying you, but it's just that we've got to you. I know you're extremely busy, just like the message you've started receiving. So I want to say this, just 2 more questions, and then I'm going to
Sure.
let you go. The first one is this: what is your key objective regarding this movie to the Australian community? And probably, the next one will be the next question.
Yeah, I think my key objective about this is we're talking here about Australia, and I mean it for the rest of the world, for every country, whether it's France, Germany, the United Kingdom, America. You have to celebrate success stories, not just of those who live in your country or lived
Yeah.
in historic times, but those who've come into your country. Because whatever you may say, we will come, whether we are of Asian
Yeah.
descent, of African descent, of any part of the world, we're going to come, we're going to work hard, we're going to succeed. At some stage, you have to accept us. So I feel the storybooks, the history books, must tell stories, not just of the East India Company that came to different parts of the world, or the first fleet that came into Australia, or the Aboriginals that lived there before, but also of these beautiful migrants who came and formed the fabric, the classic fabric of multicultural, diverse, harmonious Australia, which is what we celebrate today. So I want to send this message out, and we will be doing stories on different settlements, on the German settlement. I'm not going to stop with just keeping it, Indian. I want to talk about the Germans, the Africans who came into Australia, and create a series. So my purpose, there's a method to my madness.
Wow.
I want to create a series. I want to
Like a
show.
positive one.
Yeah, because we've got some lovely African people
Yeah.
who, there are different groups from from Ghana, from Nigeria, from South Africa, from Mozambique, from, different parts of the world, of the continent of Africa. We want their stories to also be told. And not every story needs to be a success story.
Yeah,
It can be a story of struggle.
that's it.
And if you see Kamal's story, it's a beautiful story of
Yeah.
struggle. But he fought the resilience, and the name of that film, we had to change it from Kamal to Against All Odds. Because he was against all odds. Nobody thought he would make it. When I asked him, he's 90 years of age, I asked him one question. What is, if I gave you one wish in your life, what would you have wanted that wish to be? And you know what he said with tears in his eyes? Rajiv, it's not about today, but I wish I was born white. I'd be more successful.
Wow.
So that was a story that touched my heart. And I said, I need to tell this story because I need people to know, shame or no shame, that there are people, they have feelings, they have succeeded. Let us include them in our successes as a nation.
Listening to you, I'm not God, but I just think you were born to promote social cultural integration globally. and I think this is one of the reasons you were born into this, because what you're saying resonates with different ethnic groups, and I think this is God's call upon your life. I hate being philosophical, but just listening to you, and I see it's a whole lot of call, is a serious call upon your life. So I want you to speak to, um, talk to us about your future project, and then probably cancel the entire, I know you are not entitled to talk to those in power and the rest, but you are speaking to the conscience of everyone. So you just talk to us about your future project and speak to the listener, just to everyone who knows a prime minister might just be listening. So just
Well, if not a prime minister, it could be a future prime minister.
minister, yeah.
See, what I'd like your listeners to know, and to all of you listening, you all are beautiful people. Just remember that. Each one of us has a story to tell. Never forget the roots. Never forget where you came from. If you came from housing commission, if you came from slums, if you came from poverty, if you came from any political oppression, if you came from violence, don't forget that, because let that form the foundation of your existence, and try to ensure that the journey that you've taken becomes an experience for those that follow you. And through this cinematic platform, I already have about 6 movies that one is Kamal Stories, already in post-production.
Okay.
We'll release it next month. I've also written a song on Kamal, and I got one of the artists, Stephanie Milostic, to sing that song, and it's absolutely amazing. The song was actually when I was researching at 3 a.m. in the morning about Kamal, I said, I have to write a poem on this guy. So I sat down and I wrote a poem. And I sent it to my music scorer, music director, Alfredo Zotti, and I said, Alfredo, you think we can turn this into a song? He said, sure. He quickly sent it around to me, gave me a backing track. I sent it next morning to Stephanie, and I said, Steph, can you do me a favor, darling? Can you sing this song? And she sent it back to me on WhatsApp in like 6 hours. She recorded it, and it's just a beauty to me.
We ought to play it someday on this radio. That would be lovely.
Definitely, I'll send it to you.
That would be lovely.
We've not yet released it, so we don't want to
Okay. When is that?
let it
We
out.
would love
But but we will release that song. But that celebrates. I'll show it to you off air and get you to listen to it.
Okay.
But that celebrates the life of Kamal. It's not about me. Remember, I think a lot of producers tend to start putting themselves into stereotypes, especially when you're working on social and economic issues that you're trying to show, or cultural issues. When you're working on these, don't try to tell your story.
Yeah.
Try to tell other stories
Yeah.
and relate to them. So you put yourself in their shoes.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. Well, I've been so blessed, and I believe we are all glad for you coming to the studio today. And I want to thank everyone listening. It's been a pleasure speaking to Rajiv, the producer of The Road Old and New. I hope soon you will all have the opportunity to watch the video that I watched. So I believe it's going to be out there to the public soon.
Yes, so if you go to Roads Old and New, you can all watch the trailer there. And if you really get excited and you want to send me a message, send us a message. We'll give you an access to watch it. At this stage, we've not released it for the public, but we're happy for your listeners to contact us.
Okay, just send a message.
Yeah.
Is there a way they can send a message to you? Okay, once they get there, they're going to say.
They can get in touch with you,
Okay,
and
fine, okay.
it'll be a nice way to know
Okay.
how people
Okay.
respond. I'm sure you would have feedback.
Okay, that's good. So once again, thank you, and thank you everyone for listening. Do have a great day. Just stay tuned and listen to some of our lovely music going on. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv. I'm so impressed, really. Listening to, just watching the video today, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I like, we need to have the one for the United Kingdom.